And you're sure it's supposed to come today? You read the info correctly, right? Well, excuse me, okay? I'm sorry I have a channel to run and reviews to pump out. People want content, it's not my fault. All I'm saying is it should have been here by now. This isn't UPS. Look, I get there's a lot of packages to deliver, but I need to keep my promise of one video a month. I need to get this out soon, especially with my 1-year anniversary coming out. I can't miss that. I know I've been late before, but first it was tech problems, then it was mental health, then it was because of radical Benson's existence, and then I got sick. I don't think people are gonna accept any more excuses, let alone the game being late. It's not like a mole is literally delivering this package to me and... Do you guys hear something? Oh, that's right, he's a mole. Oh my god, are you okay? Oh, thank goodness, I thought you were dead. So, where is it? Huh. Would you look at that? Is this a letter? This isn't the excitement that I need. Hey, hold on a second. This isn't my game, this is a code! Hey, what the hell gives, man? This isn't my game, this is just a bunch of letters and numbers. Online? The Switch store? You mean to tell me that this was there the whole time and I could have just got it from there? I mean, I guess this gives me something to hold during the verdict, so I still say it's successful. Thanks anyways. Are you sure you want to do that? It's not too late to go old-fashioned and just do it on foot. Or in your case, pause. No, to your left! Your left, not mine! Okay, no, stop, no, good, keep going. Okay, now you're just moonwalking the drone backwards, come on. There you go, you got it, wait. No, you're facing me, you're backwards. Backwards, turn around! Ugh. There are a ton of video games out there, but I'm sure you didn't need me to tell you that. You could literally walk into any Target or Walmart and the gaming section is probably bigger than the fitness section, which tells you a lot about how the industry has grown. But, much like any entertainment industry, there are always heavy hitters. The games that everyone knows and rakes in the big bucks to keep it all afloat. These are your Marios, Pokemons, Call of Duties that are all published and supported by major gaming companies and publishers. But what about the ones that weren't able to get millions of economic wannabes thrusting stocks at them? What happens to those companies and games? To answer that question, let me give you some advice. In a world where everyone is a Mario or a COD or even Crash Bandicoot, you gotta be a Fez. The indie game scene where all the wildest games are made and yet get shoved under the rug by indie heavyweight champion Minecraft. Indie games are games developed by small studios that don't necessarily have the same type of funding as AAA companies like Nintendo do. They have a smaller team and generally speaking, take longer to produce content because of this. They run their own show when it comes to making games. Think of it like independent films in the film industry. I mean, it's also in the name. Indie games, independent. Come on, keep up with me here. This is the game dimension, not English class dimension. Does that make these games any less good? Absolutely not. Indie games arguably can be way better than AAA games today. Some of the greatest games of all time have indie game roots, such as Minecraft, Binding of Isaac, Super Meat Boy, and Shovel Knight. In fact, indie games have begun to take an even bigger spotlight in the video game world, showing up at several game awards, and even getting their own Nintendo Direct style presentations. Nintendo even hosts Indie World, which is just amazing to see. So why all the hubbub about indie games? They just seem like regular old video games to me, you're probably saying while clutching your 5th copy of Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Well, first of all, don't you dare disrespect Owlboy like that. Secondly, what makes indie games so special is that they dare to stand out from the crowd and make something as original as possible. I don't say this with any disrespect towards Nintendo or any other major company at all. I love my Pokemon and Smash Bros. And sometimes Sonic. But these series all tend to play the same, and that's because the developers know they've hit a sweet spot with millions of people. Why fix what isn't broken? And if people do get sick of it, there's still millions of people waiting to play anyways, so no real damage is done. They're like blockbuster films or comfort food. There's something you know well enough and can usually come back to without any sort of problem at all, and that's okay. Everyone does it. With indie games, however, the developers aren't typically well known and have full creative control over what they want to make and can tell whatever story they want. I mean, look at Mario. What does he do? He jumps, runs, and defeats Bowser with whatever power-ups or skills that game enables. It's something we can always come back to and have fun with, no matter what iteration is next. But with indie games, they could make a platformer that is about a guy named Synth, who is in space, and you platform through low gravity to solve puzzles that tie into the plot, which is about grief you feel over losing your family ages ago to a house fire. Holy shit, I kinda want that game now. That's the type of creativity indie developers challenge themselves with. They don't care about sticking to what people know best or using next-gen graphics or whatever mechanics come with the system. They care about the experience they want to give you and take notes from these mainstream games to make something special. Why such an emphasis on indie games, you may ask? Because if you recall at the end of my last review, I mentioned we were going to talk about a game that none of you had heard of, but certainly caught my eye. And just so happens to be an indie game that goes by the name of Molehill. Releasing for Nintendo Switch, PC, PS4, and Xbox One on March 4th of this year, Molehill is the first game made by indie developer Talpa Games. It's not the most well-known indie game out there, but for those that have reviewed it, praises have been sung about this game left and right, calling it a charming and pretty decent platformer. I probably wouldn't have even heard of the game if it wasn't for the help of Wholesome Games and their Twitter one morning. As the name suggests, Wholesome Games is all about sharing indie titles that have either a cozy atmosphere, charming story, or just all around put a smile on your face in the most wholesome way possible. Molehill promises to deliver on this with entertaining and unique platforming with a lovable cast of woodland creatures and has caught my eye because of this. I mean, we've seen cats, plumbers, hedgehogs, pharaohs, and even bears and birds try their hand at 3D platforming. We've never seen a mole before, sure, but to claim to give a unique experience in a genre that has a wide array of characters that try and say the same thing is certainly a bold move, especially for an indie developer. And yet, it's this charming boldness that has caught my attention one cold February day on Twitter that has me itching to play this game. So by now you're probably thinking, Benson, what the hell is this? This isn't SpongeBob or Paper Mario or even Maneater. It's an indie game about a rodent. Why the interest? And there's a good reason for that. I love that you guys are enjoying my reviews, don't get me wrong. But up until this point, I've been talking about games that have been reviewed to death by everyone. Cat in the Hat may be the exception, but if it is, it's not a good exception. I consider this game to be a unique video, not only because it helps my channel grow with small communities wanting to find something different, but it helps me spread the word on a game I think you guys might enjoy that may slip under your radar. Plus, I'm all about spreading indie game love, and if I can talk about an indie game that catches my eye on this channel, I'm certainly going to snatch up the opportunity. But is this game worth the delivery, or is it something that should burrow deep underground? Get cozy, ladies and gentlemen, because this is going to be a special delivered review. This is Molehill for the Switch. To start off the game, our character, Multi the Mole, is enjoying his vacation on Coconut Beach Island when he suddenly receives a letter from his brother asking him to return. Apparently, all of the power in the tower has gone out, which means the summer festival can't happen until we are able to restore power by going to each level and sending override codes to acquire power cells to restore all of the electricity to the main hub. Without a second thought, Multi decides to spring into action. Oh, I've seen this before. Spending time on vacation and living your best life only for a dire situation to arise and you're taken out of your relaxation and thrust back into action. Oh no, I wasn't talking about 3D platformer stories, I was talking about working full-time. Multi gets it. All jokes aside, this is your standard run-of-the-mill story. Hero is put immediately into action after a cry for help, now go collect things. It's simple, sure, but honestly, most 3D platformers are. Molehill just doesn't have the booming orchestra or massive bosses of Mario, or the googly eyes on everything goofiness of the plot of Banjo-Kazooie to partly distract you from the simple formula used time and time again. And honestly, that's okay. This game isn't trying to wow you with its story after all. If you're playing a 3D platformer for its story, then you're going to be hard-pressed to find a story that'll totally amaze you that isn't Mario Galaxy. I'm here to 3D platform after all. Speaking of which, we immediately get a feel for the controls and... did my game just glitch out already? No, he's still moving. So we move underground for this game. You gotta admit, that's definitely new. So remember when I mentioned that this game claims to deliver a unique experience? Consider that claim backed up. Multi, being a mole, doesn't move around on the surface. Instead, he finds himself perfectly at home burrowing underground to move around for this game. The only way you know where you're going is through the dirt that he kicks up along the way, and if you hold down the Y button, he speeds up slightly as he digs faster. Honestly, I have no complaints with this choice. He's still smooth to control when it comes to things like turning, visibility of where you are on the platform is not a problem, and it keeps up with animal continuity, which is cute. If I really wanted to play a 3D platformer with an animal that moves above surface that bad, I wouldn't be playing Male Mole. I'd play IRS Iguana. Not being able to see multi doesn't just affect your movement, it also affects the way you platform. As we make our way to the town, Batty here teaches us the rest of our moveset, which includes jumping, ground pounding, and dashing, and they are all affected by the design choices carried by being a mole. For example, jumping in standard platformers is almost universal. You press a button and you jump. If you press and hold the button, you get some more altitude while you jump. It's been an idea implemented for years and executed near flawlessly. But in this game, if you press a button, you do the ever slightest hop above ground and then go back under. If you want any hope of gaining air with your jumps in this game, you have to press and hold the jump button and watch carefully as a ring of light begins to envelop you. If the light flashes, you've reached the max power you can use towards your jump, but you can release the button at any point to get a varying degree of height during your jump before that point. The only thing you'll be fighting with when it comes to jumping in this game is your muscle memory on how jumps work in other platformers, other games for that matter. You really won't realize how universal controlling a jump is until you play Male Mole. It takes that formula and inverts it, so now instead of relying on the press and hold of a button to set you instantly into motion, you'll be relying on it to calculate your next jump and then execute it. You will be frustrated for the first level or two, as you'll still have your mind set to Mario mode, and botch a couple of jumps you would normally have down. Hell, you may even quit for a bit. But, much like what I said about Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 in that review, this game is going to take a little bit of practice and patience. It's challenging you to play outside of your comfort zone. You know, like I mentioned indie games tend to do. You won't get it right away, but you'll find that once you do get the hang of this jump, it'll come second nature to you much like any other game. That's because jumps still have that familiar feel to their execution once you send multi-flying. The weight of the character is just right, and doesn't have you spending too much time in the air, nor send you crashing down immediately, and the arc the character flies in feels spot on, and you'll know how far you'll be able to reach in no time. This all feels so tight and well controlled. It's just the act of enacting a jump that you'll have to get used to. But luckily, you will have plenty of time to do that even before you go into a level. The plaza, while a simple hub world compared to other games, has plenty of ledges and platforms for you to test your jumping skills on, so you can get the knack of things. Whether this was done on purpose by Talpa Games or not, it's clever level design, and I would highly recommend taking advantage of it. Ground pounding is still the same. Press a button mid-jump and you come crashing down into whatever you're landing on, whether it's a crate or a button. This feels decent as well, and the crunch of hitting a crate is as satisfying as ever. However, this does bring me into the one move that no matter how often I used, couldn't get the hang of. And that's the dash because... Wait, hold on a second. Hi, YouTube? I had a question. So, I'm playing a game that's meant to be wholesome, and I was wondering if, given your guidelines, I couldn't swear. Uh-huh. Doesn't matter. You're gonna strike my channel anyways? Okay. Yeah, that clears everything up. No, I'm not gonna buy YouTube Red. Okay, love you too. Bye. Fuck this dash. How the dash works in this game is that you jump, and as soon as you hit the ground, you press a button to activate your dash, which is used to handle stacks of boxes you can't ground pound, and also for races, which we will get to later. I honestly couldn't get used to this move. No matter how many times I pressed the button as I hit the ground, the dash wouldn't activate, and later on in the game, I just kept spamming the Y button hoping I'd activate it. I get they want to give you a different experience on platforming and momentum, but this is one move they could have cheated with and just had multi automatically dash with the press of a button. Luckily, the dash isn't mandatorily needed too much in the game, so even when I felt like I got a little bit better with it, it wasn't for do or die situations. All things considered, this is a standard platforming moveset, but man, is it executed differently and for the most part, smoothly. And again, this hub world gives you plenty of time to get used to your moves, but we can use these moves all we want here. Let's jump into a level and see how they work there. Mario. This game has very clear inspirations from Mario now that I'm in a level. It's not hard to see, nor is it a bad thing. It's really charming. The intros to a level, including a sweeping shot of it, on top of the platforming by manipulating momentum differently from what you're used to, is clearly a nod to Mario Galaxy. And 3D World shows its colors through collectibles in the game. The only collectibles that you need to worry about in this game are carrots and radishes. Carrots are the coins of this game. You're gonna find them everywhere in groups or just by themselves. They come with a satisfying crunch every time you collect them. Along with these carrots are radishes, the green stars of the game. There are 3 of them sprinkled throughout the level that you can find, and they aren't the hardest to find compared to its green counterpart. Typically, you'll either see them in the distance or find a pathway or spot that seems to indicate something might be there. That isn't to say the actual act of getting them is easy. They can be a bit challenging to get and take advantage of your character in clever ways. For example, in a level in Ancient Ruins, there are these rolling platforms that you need to be on to acquire a radish. But the path to it is mostly blocked by a platform, not giving enough space between it and the rolling block. For any other platform hero of the day, this would be impossible, but for Multi, who is underground, all he has to do is just make sure he doesn't roll off the platform and squeeze through. It's little puzzles and moments like these that make me appreciate how committed Talpa Games is to making sure you get the best of your character. However, a downside to some of these radishes is that Talpa Games tends to hold your hand on some of them. For example, once again in Ancient Ruins, I got towards the end of a level and realized I didn't have a radish. Looking around making sure I didn't miss anything, I found out that I didn't because there was a sign directing me on where to go for the last one in what would have been a really clever hiding spot. I get they want to make this game an easy pickup for everyone, but I feel like moments like these are unnecessary. I mean, this isn't Teletubbies on PS1. You can give me a little challenge here, guys. Collectibles are good and all, but it's all for nothing if the levels aren't fun. And luckily, I can say that they are. They are absolutely fun. There are 8 worlds in total, 4 levels in each, and they are your run-of-the-mill level themes. Deserts, snowy ridges, volcanoes, and even spooky scary swamps. And unlike Cat in the Hat, they managed to use the themes in the most creative ways possible. From rolling around on windmill platforms and fields in the first world, to bouncing on rafts to get past obstacles on Coconut Beach Island, and even disappearing platforms as if they were ghosts in spooky swamp. Malmo manages to take the area and use it against you as your greatest challenge in stellar ways. And it's a good thing to use the environment as your enemy because this game doesn't have any actual opponents for you outside of these energy balls and other miscellaneous shockwaves that stand in your way. Does this mean that the game is easy due to no bad guys in your way in the levels? Not at all. For a game all about giving you a much simpler experience compared to what we see now, it can get challenging as you go on. It's not hair-pulling challenging either. This game manages to find a perfect balance between giving you an experience just for fun and making sure you earn it as you progress. There weren't many times I felt the game was unfair. However, the only times I felt like there was bullshit was on these spinning log platforms where depending on which way you move, it rolls in that direction. So if you turn left, it spins left. This was ridiculous, especially in the endgame, because it feels like Multi moves faster than the damn thing, and you have to pump the brakes for a second only to be sent flying in the other direction. This could have used a little bit more tweaking. Speaking of tweaking, you might tweak out for a second during these high-flying speed levels. Sprinkled throughout the game are these levels where Multi takes inspiration from Sonic and uses the Chaos Carrots to go super fast! It's the platforming levels but much quicker to get through, and once you do get used to the speed boost you get to start the level, it feels comfortable to control. It feels nice to test multi and horizontal movement at these, rather than vertical movement like the rest of the game, and again, he's easy to control. And the best part is, there's no life system in this game to stress over. Although there is one explanation I have, which we'll get to soon enough, I like the implementation of this in the game. Malmo is meant to bring you joy, not be the next Shovel Knight, and taking notes from Mario Odyssey and having your life system be losing carrots instead of lives shows what they're going for. Yeah, it isn't as grandiose as Odyssey, but that game still gives you a sense of focusing on the then and now, rather than worry about getting to the end without losing all of your lives. And that's the vibe you get with this game. Malmo has a destination at the end of each level in the form of towers and getting power cells, the stars of this game, sure. But the more you play this game, the more you'll love and focus on getting the best out of Multi and playing around in the worlds in unique ways rather than the end of a level. While I do wish the amount of carrots you lose wasn't always 5 since you get a ton of them throughout the game, it's a minor gripe. A mountain out of a molehill, if you will? No! I've seen what makes you cheer! Even if you want to test your platforming skills in this game, there is a clock in the top left of every level that keeps track of how long you make it through a level. At the end, you'll find out whether you earned a gold, silver, bronze medal, or the empty feeling inside of knowing you'll never be the fastest mole alive. You don't get anything for getting all the gold medals, just the satisfaction of knowing you were fast as hell and essentially a master of controlling the game, and learning the levels inside and out.
It's a harmless touch that doesn't add anything to the story, but rather your own personal growth as a player, which is always a good thing. Back to the main objectives, the more power cells you collect, the more worlds you unlock, but if you beat all 4 levels in a world, you unlock races with Stella's robot moles. These plop you in one of the levels you've played through before, and you have to get first place to acquire a power cell. I've been joking up until this point about multi being Sonic, but Jesus can these races be a joke most times. They feel incredibly easy, and the only race I had to keep trying at was Yeti Mountain, and only because one robot had the dash down to a T. But once I started hoping for a miracle by pressing the dash button every second of my jump, even then that became a breeze. Maybe it's because I knew the level layout by the time I got to the races, but even then, so do some of the robots that try and take the same shortcuts I do. It just feels relatively easy. The best thing I can say about these races is that they're a good way to know a level thoroughly if you're trying to go for that speedrunning challenge in each level. Okay, so we've collected a bunch of power cells. I feel like it's time for some grizzly bear or whatever to strut in and say he's taking the power. Where is he? Wait, what's that noise? Maybe I should stop smoking these. You are seeing correctly. A goddamn UFO is swooping in here trying to take our energy. And apparently they know who's controlling it too? What? What the fuck left field ancient alien shit is this? It isn't aliens though, but someone named Pukot that is trying to ruin our festival. Before I show you Pukot, I want to pose a question. Have you ever wondered what Franklin the Turtle would look like if he grew up like a pirate who lived on the wrong side of Tumblr? Introducing Pukot. Pukot is our first boss battle and is pretty standard stuff. Dodge his cannonballs, hit a button to cut power off, rinse and repeat a couple times. It's pretty easy, but is the first boss battle, so it gets a pass. There is mention of Pukot probably not working alone, so ooh, wonder who'll be next. Oh, it's Pukot. Again. Just with different platforms and more buttons. Okay then. I hope this isn't it most of the game. Spoiler alert. It is. This is extremely disappointing. I get the drive behind this game, but couldn't these battles with Pukot get any more difficult beyond adding more buttons and cannonballs? The most challenging he gets is when he pulls the old oopsie daisy and makes you hit fake buttons, only to pull out the real buttons anyways. Hello everyone and welcome to the award dimension. Today we're presenting the award for dumbest villain, and your nominees are Bowser for chasing the same girl over and over again and never thinking to snag her at a game of golf while Mario is distracted. What a bitch. Ollie, the Origami King, for almost murdering an entire race of toads because he had an existential crisis. That idiot. Game Freak for existing because as a Pokemon fan, I am legally obliged to hate everything that they do. And finally, Pukot for making fake switches only to reveal real ones 5 seconds later. Those are your nominees, but only one can win. And your winner for the Dumbest Villain Award is, what a surprise, all of them, because this bit is as dumb as they are. Thank you and have a good night. To wrap up the story very quickly, because there isn't much after Pukot, you face him one last time, and he crashes his UFO in a fiery explosion, never to be seen again. Okay, what is with villains supposedly dying a fiery death these last 2 games? Cat in the Hat, I can understand. That needs to die in a fire. But why Pukot? He's just a cranky old pirate of the Turtle Being. Afterwards, we do learn that he was working for the big bad of the game, King Rat, and to defeat him, we have to deliver a cease and desist. You don't see that every day. I mean, how many games do you defeat a villain by delivering a letter to their doorstep? What do you want?
Your taxes are due.
Shit! This tower was surprisingly a decent culmination of everything we've gone through up until this point. It's not a long challenge, but it's still a good time to get through. You want to guess what I'm going to say about King Rat? It's the same damn thing as Pukot! The only difference is that instead of multiple buttons, it's one, and shockwaves instead of cannonballs. I guess his final battle is the best battle of all the bosses, but that's because you platform a lot more than usual to get to him in the mailbox. The bosses in this game are easily the weakest link. This feels mind-numbingly easy. After we defeat King Rat, we start the summer festival, but Stella says that she has a surprise for us if we collect all the power cells. Should you choose to 100% the game, you get additional races in the form of these arcade games. I'm not the biggest fan of this reward. These races are the ever slightest more difficult, but still, not that challenging after maybe 1 or 2 tries if you really need to. I would have preferred an extra world in all honesty, but for once, I'm not too upset about 100% completion. This game obviously doesn't want to focus on that, but rather enjoying the core game itself, and I'm all for it. It feels good not to have to strain for 100%, even if the reward is a bit underwhelming. It's not often I get to say that. It feels pretty nice. Now before I move on to the misc stuff, there is one major gripe that I have with the game. And if you've caught on to my language describing the entire experience or certain levels, you could probably guess what it is. This game is incredibly short. I 100% in this game in around 4.5 to 5 hours. These levels, despite there being a plethora of them, and all having some really great concepts and enjoyment, can be beaten in less than 5 minutes for the most part. The shortest can be under a minute, and that's without speedrunning. The exception could be Spooky Swamp because those levels have you waiting for platforms to reappear most of the time. It sucks when I got into such a groove of the game, only for it to be over before I knew it. While the moveset is wonderful, I wish we got a bit more time with multi, which I'm sure will be remedied with updates and future games that Talpa Games is promising. Then again, the thing is, this game is only $15. You heard me right. $15 on the Switch. That's criminal for a game like this, despite its length problems. There's so much polish to this game, so much identity. It feels insane that it's so short. Maybe 2 or 3 more hours could have done the game justice. Before we get to the verdict, let's go over some misc stuff. The music ranges from relaxing jazz to energetic street band songs, and I enjoyed all of the soundtrack. I found myself whistling to some of the songs and having a smile on my face when I was jamming along. It's not the best soundtrack ever, but it feels right at home in a cafe, which I can appreciate, and I wish I could have found the soundtrack online for you guys to listen to during this review. Watch some clips of this game and you'll see what I mean. The characters outside of Multi, Puka, and even King Rat aren't the most memorable. They're all exceptionally designed, sure, but these characters are all here just to move you along from point A to point B. I mean, hell, they don't stand out so much that I legit blinked when they mentioned that this owl was the mayor. It's not a deal breaker, but one of the best parts of platformers is standout characters, so it's a bit disappointing. The game's graphics have a simplistic style to them that you may have seen a couple times in other indie games during presentations. The colors are all bright, and mixed with the simple polygons for things like the trees and even platforms, it looks decent. I wouldn't recommend this game based off of graphics, sure, but it's a decent looker all things considered. I will admit, these radishes that have an almost diamond look to them are a soft spot for me. They look like something you'd find in an arcade game, and it's adorable. This next point is probably one of my favorite of the misc things though. Remember the carrots and radishes? You're probably wondering up until this point why I haven't mentioned their use. Well, it's for the simplest thing that doesn't affect the game, but is super appreciated. You can use carrots to unlock costumes, and if you collect all the radishes, you get an unlocked costume and gold chains that's basically saying you're a baller. I fucking love this. You do not understand how many platformer games in general for that matter, try to overcomplicate collectibles, whether they make them useless and not worth collecting, or useful but hard to find. This game takes these collectibles and makes them purely cosmetic, which is perfect. Carrots are found everywhere, and radishes are not hard to find, so of course simple collectibles should have simple rewards. Yeah, you don't see multi too much above ground, so costumes are a bit weird, but look at this well-dressed man! Multi the Chad does not care for your above surface complaints, don't even come from my neck! Also should mention Multi is adorable as hell. I love his design. The top hat is best costume. But in a flash, that is Malmo on Nintendo Switch, an experience unlike any other. What a charming experience, but with that being said, I think it's about time that we deliver review time on this indie game. So, is Malmo a special delivery, or is it something that should be returned to sender? You remember earlier when I mentioned Talpa Games had a lot of confidence to call this game unique? Yeah, I think they've earned every right to say that. I'm gonna harp on the length of the game and the bosses and the race's difficulty, but at the end of the day, this game delivered almost everything that it set out to accomplish. Multi's moveset is tight-knit and gives you a new perspective on platforming. The levels, despite being so short, offer a decent romp through different lands. The costumes in Multi are oozing with charisma and personality, and the game as a whole combines all of these things that are simple on their own in other games into something you can easily pick up at any time and replay for a short while to forget all of your cares. And to be very honestly laid out at $15, you're getting your money's worth. The game isn't trying to amaze you in its scope like Final Fantasy or Pokemon. It isn't trying to give you an emotional story like Paper Mario, and it isn't even trying to one-up fellow indie games like Shovel Knight. It's just trying to give you a fun gaming experience akin to that of older eras of 3D platformers, where all that mattered was the journey and nothing else. And it succeeds while offering up a mole-sized shakeup to the platforming formula. It's like comfort food. There's nothing fancy to it, but you love it because you've had it before, and it'll put a smile on your face no matter what and leave you satisfied. It's cute, it's different enough to stand out when you catch a glimpse, it's charming, it's wholesome. Deliver this game to your Switch right away. As someone whose favorite gaming genre is RPGs, the literal definition of millions of things crammed into one game, it's nice to play a game that doesn't have any gimmicks attached to it and feels like it's just trying to be a video game instead of some sort of cinematic masterpiece. It's nice to have that sprinkled in every once in a while. And it continues to bring up a point that I will scream about time and time again when it comes to indie games. Seriously, check out indie presentations and your console's online stores. Not only are they cheaper by today's standards, but you may also be pleasantly surprised with what you find. Maybe even your next favorite game. But with that being said though, that is gonna be the end of this review. Thank you guys so much for tuning in as always. Before I go though, it's question time. Have you picked up Mailmo at all? What do you think of it if you have? Do you dabble in indie games a lot? And what's an indie game that you would personally recommend? The indie community is all about finding a new game to love, and as much as I'm excited for the answers, this is also more for you guys to interact more with each other and find interesting games that you may think other people will love. I mean, after all, we are trying to build a community ourselves. Let me know in the comments down below. Be sure to like and subscribe if you liked what you saw, and the next time you guys will see me is the 1-year anniversary of the Game Dimension. It certainly doesn't feel like it's been a year, but we're gonna celebrate it the best way we know how. A long-ass review, because apparently you guys enjoy that shit. I'm hoping to have it out on the exact day that I posted my first ever video, which is June 23rd. If it's not then, expect it a few days afterwards. Yeah, we're going that hard for this review. Until next time though, this is Benson from the Game Dimension signing off. Have a good day, guys.